Hello there, I'm Azara Tagaya and you're watching Nightline. The headlines. JDT retains Sultan Ahmad Shah Cup. And argument between neighbours ends with murder. Good morning. We begin with our headlining story. Sports football, the 2019 Sultan Ahmad Shah Cup. Defending champions Johor Darul Takzim kicked off their new Super League season with a win after a 1-0 victory over Perak in their season opener clash on Saturday night. JDT dominated right from the kick-off as they continuously pushed on for the opening goal throughout the first half. The efforts were finally rewarded on the 40th minute when Gabriel Cabrera blasted the ball into the top corner for the 1-0 lead. Perak then pushed on for the equaliser in the second half but were unable to find the breakthrough as the Southern Tigers held on until the full-time whistle to bag home 3 maximum points. With the win, JDT now share the top spot with Pahang, Kedah and Malacca United. Besides the JDT Perak tie, 2 more league matches were played on Saturday night. Malacca United beat Petaling Jaya CFC 2-1, while PKN PFC suffered a 2-0 defeat to Kedah at home. 2 goals from Shakir Hamzah and Jonathan Bowman gave the visitors the maximum points to put Kedah in second place in the standings. Now, an argument between 2 neighbours led to the death of an elderly man just days before the Chinese New Year. 83-year-old Chai Ah Kin, who was renting a room at a 3-storey shop house in Ipoh, Perak, was allegedly stabbed to death by his neighbour with a spoon. The suspect in his 30s was also critically injured after being attacked by a third person and was admitted to Raja Permaisuri Bainon Hospital. In the 12 p.m. incident, the octogenarian was killed after being stabbed on his chest with a blunt object following an argument. According to Perak CID Deputy Chief ACP Anwar Othman, a woman who was also renting a room there tried to stop the fight but ended up being strangled by the suspect. Seeing this, the woman's son, who was home for the holidays, became enraged and attacked the suspect with a cleaver. As a result, the suspect was badly injured from being slashed on the head.
Takat ni pisau ada. Pisau kita jumpa.
Ada sebuah sudu kan?
Sudu tu adalah, tapi kita tak tahu sama ada sudu tu digunakan untuk apa ni menikam mangsa tu. Kita sedang siasat. Sama ada kesan sudu tu ada di apa ni boleh menyebabkan kematian. Kita sedang siasat tu.
Police are still investigating the motive behind the murder, but believe it could be due to a misunderstanding. Anwar said the elderly victim had been renting the room for the past 20 years, while the suspect became a tenant about 6 months ago. About 200 stalls at the Uptown Puchong Night Bazaar in Puchong, Selangor were gutted in a fire on Saturday morning, with total losses estimated around 1 million ringgit. According to the Fire and Rescue Department, the blaze began from the middle of the bazaar when about 80 stalls were opened. A total of 40 firefighters from Puchong, Serdang, Kota Anggrek and Petaling Jaya stations, together with 6 fire engines, were deployed to the scene after a distress call was received at 7:58 a.m. The fire was brought under control about an hour later. Fortunately, no casualties were reported, but the cause of the fire and total losses are still under investigation. Meanwhile, Senator R. Suresh Singh, who represents Puchong MP Gobind Singh Dio, and Seri Serdang Assemblywoman Dr. Siti Maria Mahmud were present to render assistance.
Maka kita perlu mengadakan perbincangan dengan MPSJ seperti yang diharapkan oleh peniaga supaya mereka dapat bermula berniaga secepat mungkin. Jadi saya kena berbincang dengan MPSJ tapak mana yang paling baik untuk mereka buat sementara ini.
The Uptown Puchong Night Bazaar was opened in 2011 and most stall owners started their businesses there since then. Protect Health Corporation Sendirian Berhad, or PH Corp, a non-profit company set up by the Health Ministry to manage the Peduli Kesihatan B40 scheme, or PERKA B40, is not managed by a third party. Its Minister, Datuk Seri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad, said PH Corp, a 100% government-owned company, is not a managed care organisation MCO or a third-party administrator TPA. Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli in a statement on Saturday said PH Corp was set up to broaden the access of quality healthcare services by optimizing the use of existing public and private healthcare ecosystems. He explained that the Peka B40 scheme was currently in a pilot project phase and has not been fully launched. The minister stressed that the launch last Monday was a media launch that was aimed at raising the public's awareness of the Peka B40 scheme, as well as to open up an opportunity for the ministry to review the acceptance of the people and other stakeholders. Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli added that the involvement and support of stakeholders was important to ensure the success of the scheme, which was an initiative that focused on the collaboration between the private and public sector through government funding. He said in the pilot phase, private stakeholders involved in the healthcare screening of patients would be private clinics and private medical laboratory companies. Dr. Zulkifli also said private clinics registered with the ministry and private medical laboratory companies who fulfill the selection criteria are invited to join the scheme. He clarified that medical fees for consultancy and health screening services at the private clinics will be based on the provisions of the 7th Schedule, Private Healthcare Facilities and Services, Private Medical Clinics or Private Dental Clinics Regulations 2006, Act 586. He also confirmed that there will be no payment involved between the two parties and all payments will be borne by PH Corp. The frontrunner to be the Pakatan Harapan candidate for the Semenyih by-election is Muhammad Rais Zulkifli, who is popularly known as Mr. Tyson. According to the coalition source, Rais seems to fill most of the criteria to be the Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia or Bersatu's candidate for PH in Semenyih, as he is also a local boy. The source further said that Rais heads a list of 6 candidates, one of whom is a woman. The Pakatan Harapan has agreed to field a Bersatu candidate for the Semenyih by-election. The seat fell vacant following the death of Bakhtiar Mohamad Noor on January 11th from a heart attack. In the 14th general election, Bakhtiar defeated candidates from Barisan Nasional, PAS and Parti Sosialis Malaysia PSM in a 4-cornered fight with a majority of 8,964 votes. The nomination day for the by-election of the state constituency is slated for February 12th and polling day will be on March 2nd. The Sarawak government is serious about setting up its own airline company to connect the state with strategic locations in the region. Chief Minister Datuk Patinggi Abang Johari Abang Oping said the state was wealthy in terms of cultural heritage and nature attractions. However, limited air connectivity remains a challenge to further develop and boost its domestic and international tourism.
A lot of tourists now is point to point. I think we have to look at that. If you were to get the number of tourists, because you got attraction, the only problem is connectivity. Adalah through Singapore, but still they have to go from their own origin to Singapore, Singapore to Kuching. So perhaps what we do, we have strategic point, Hong Kong, Bangkok, Manila, Jakarta, straight to Kuching. So we are looking into that.
He also noted that several airlines had opened up new routes to connect Sarawak to international destinations in the past. However, these routes were later pulled out by the airlines, much to his disappointment. As such, the Chief Minister believes a medium-sized airline would be sufficient to connect Sarawak to a few major and potential destinations. 11 people in Tanjung Sepat in Kuala Langat, Selangor have been diagnosed with chikungunya. Health Director General Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said they were among 14 people who were tested after experiencing chikungunya symptoms. In a statement, Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham said control and prevention methods for chikungunya have been done in the Tanjung Sepat area. They include destroying mosquito habitat and fogging activities. Chikungunya is a disease spread by the Aedes mosquito, the same type of mosquito that spreads dengue. Those who have been infected with chikungunya experience fever, rash, body and joint aches, which can hinder their movements. People who have such symptoms are urged to get tests and further treatments at the healthcare facilities nearby. In Selangor, 2 men suspected of distributing drugs at the Sungai Buloh rest area on Friday have been arrested. It was reported that a narcotics department team from Bukit Aman had tailed the suspect's car to the rest area following a tip-off that they were involved in drug-related activities. Following the arrest, the suspects led the police to a house in Subang where drugs believed to be ketamine weighing over 90 kilograms were seized. Still in Selangor, a total of 44 illegal immigrants were arrested in an integrated operation against crime at an apartment in Flora Damansara late on Friday night. The operation was carried out following complaints received on the amount of foreign nationals in the area and increase in crime cases. Among those arrested were of Indonesia, Nigeria, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan and Iran nationals. Over in Johor, residents around Bukit Lintang and Lukut in Kota Tinggi are growing restless as their neighbourhoods continue to be invaded by elephants since July last year. The uninvited guests have been terrorising crops in the two areas, resulting in huge losses for scores of local farmers over the 7-month period. The Wildlife and National Parks Department Perhilitan has advised the residents to refrain from provoking the elephants to avoid any untoward incidents. Malaysians have been told not to arrange for an Umrah online, but instead to go through registered travel agencies. This is because those who don't follow procedures can be arrested by the Saudi authorities. Prospective pilgrims are urged to follow proper procedures by getting their visa from a valid travel agency that has registered with the ministry and that was confirmed as a muassasah partner with the Saudi embassy. After the breather, first e-sports competition between higher learning institutes. Back on Nightline, now it's time for our esports segment. Media Prima Digital MPD has teamed up with Celcom Axiata Berhad to launch the XPAX Campus Esports Championship 2019. The tournament is the country's first ever esports competition between higher learning institutes with a prize pool of 180,000 ringgit. One Izul Islam has the story.
Organised by MyGameOn in collaboration with esports partner Kitaman, the event will be held in 5 different zones around the country. The championship will see participating teams from higher learning institutions battle it out in 3 game titles, namely Mobile Legends, Pro Evolution Soccer 2019 and Dota 2.
We'll be in 6 different locations: Central, South, East, Borneo and Eastern, and the grand final will be in Klang Valley. Yeah. When it will be held in February until end of April.
According to MPD Chief Executive Officer Rafiq Razali, the digital marketing arm of Media Prima Berhad is committed to spurring the growth of the local esports industry. He added that the tournament is also aimed at educating over 1 million university students nationwide on healthy gaming.
We feel that having a campus versus campus sort of like competition can sort of like raise the spirit of over 1 million students in the higher learning institutes in Malaysia, and by doing that, give us a new audience that will sort of like support esports moving forward.
To help gratify students participating in the tournament, Celcom Axiata Berhad will also be awarding the campus with the most winning teams a scholarship worth 50,000 ringgit. As part of the organization's Esports Empowerment Initiative, the scholarship will provide the youth a platform where they can hone their skills and make a mark in the gaming world.
For those students who are into esports somewhat, but also have innovative ideas around how to bring their career forward and how to go into the industry, how to innovate, essentially people who can innovate in their thinking, we want to partner them. So our way is to say, if they have a good idea, let's fund it.
Cake 2009 hopes to boost the esports scene in the Southeast Asian region in light of the inclusion of the new category in the upcoming SEA Games hosted in the Philippines. Meanwhile, another esports league was launched earlier this week by Axis Technology Resources subsidiary Axis Esports. The Axis Call of Duty League, ACL, and Axis Pro Evolution Soccer League, APL, will begin their online qualifiers this month. The live draw for both leagues was held at the Pantheon in Subang Jaya, Selangor, and was attended by Managing Director of Axis Esports, Hanazri Zainal.
ACL, we have 80 players with 16 teams, and APL, we have 92 players. The prize pool for the APL is 35,000 and for ACL is 50,000.
The league will be held for 9 months with 3 land playoffs and a major grand final that will be announced at a later date. Hanazri also hopes that more private companies will host esports tournaments and leagues to help promote the Malaysian esports scene.
The reason we do this is to provide the platform for the players to enhance and also to become the scene for the esports industry.
Axis Esports will host another 2 events this year, including the PUBG Mobile Axis Wildcard League and Konistra, a tournament that will be held in March at University Malaya. Wan Zul Islam for Nightline's esports segment, TV3.
Now on to our health segment. Autism is recognized as a developmental disability that needs public support and understanding. But many are still unaware of the difficulties faced by autistic individuals, especially when they go out in public, as bright lights, loud noises and crowded spaces can cause autistic individuals to experience sensory overload, which can lead to aggression and self-harming behaviours. This inspired a shopping mall in Kuala Lumpur to become the first autism-friendly mall in the country. Zansha Rahaizad has the story.
In Malaysia, there are over 300,000 people on the autism spectrum, and educating the public has been the focus of large-scale initiatives over the past few years. Thus, Sawi Putra Mall has decided to make itself autism-friendly every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., an effort to provide an inclusive and comfortable shopping experience and, at the same time, to educate the public to be more accepting of the autism spectrum disorder, ASD. The initiative, dubbed Autism, in collaboration with Autism Behavioural Centre (ABC) and National Autism Society of Malaysia (NASOM), aims to educate the public, advocate and celebrate the autism community.
There was one day when I sit down with one of my our business partner, together with my marketing team. We touched on this autism subject, and so coincident when we talk about this, we realize each of us, we do have an immediate family members who is autistic kids, and it's about 1 out of 68 Malaysians are actually autism. So then we realized that this is very important.
Autism has received numerous positive feedback since its launch early this month, with many hoping that more public places would follow suit.
I think this is excellent, very good. You should have more malls doing all this so that people would be more aware and understanding of what autism kids are like. This kind of initiative, we hope more malls can do like this so that more family would bring out their children with autism, because many families are afraid to bring their autistic children or grandchildren out because they're afraid people don't understand and get upset.
Every Tuesday, except public holidays, families with autistic kids who visit the mall can enjoy special services and privileges, such as dimmed lights and volume-reduced music, reserved parking spaces, a calm room for cases of a meltdown, sensory walls, and priority lane, as well as exclusive discounts at participating outlets. Autism kids can also enjoy free entry to the Parenthood Playland, as well as the Cat Playground, the first cat-assisted therapy playground in Malaysia. But first, you'd have to sign up as an Autism member via their website or register in person at the concierge to receive the Autism kit, which consists of a parking sticker and a wristband for ease of identification. Now let's hope that this is a start for other public centres to be more tolerant to people who have autism. Zansha Rahaizad for Nightline's Health segment, TV3.
Coming up after the break, harsh reality faced by Syrian child refugees. Back on Nightline. Considered too young to understand, but the reality of war has forced them to grow wise beyond their years. That's the reality faced by millions of Syrian refugees, almost 2.7 million of them children. And of that number, countless children have been left to fend for themselves after the tragic death of loved ones. We recently visited these Syrian refugee camps in Arsal, Lebanon, together with Syria Care Malaysia, to take a closer look at the plight of Syrian refugees. The emotional burden that this child and his sister carries may seem hard to bear for some. They lost their mother at a tender age due to an illness, while their father, accused of being a terrorist, has been locked away in prison in Syria. Ahmed Rifai, 11, says he would like to become a lawyer when he grows up. When asked why, to help get my father out of prison, he says. At the camp, Ahmad and his sister Haima are being looked after by their aunt, who has no children of her own.
هذا ضل خايف هذاك ضل يبكي نتخبى تحت الأرض نتخبى بأبوه وقت تجي الضرب نتخبى تحت الأرض أبوه عاملين أبوه ما عاد نحسن بعدين ما عاد نحسن نضل يعني هذا ضل يبكي هذا صغير يضل يبكي.
كيف أنت إيش قلتي لهم يعني؟
شو ضل خايفة عليهم وأركض فيهم أنا يجي بالليل القصف علينا أركض شيلهم واحد شيله هيك وواحد جره ونتخبى بالأبو تحت.
They are one of 16 families seeking refuge at the Mujama Shamal Ansar camp, which takes in only widows and orphans.
وأفيدكم علما بأن هذا المجمع والعوائل التي أشرف عليها هي عوائل بدون معيل. عوائل أيتام وأرامل، أي الرجل ممكن معظم الآباء قد توفيوا في سوريا أو مفقودين، فهذا الأمر يشكل عبء كثير على العائلة تصبح بلا معيل، وهناك أطفال كما تعلمون حاجات المدارس وحاجة الطفل إلى الدواء والشراب والأغذية والملابس، يعني لا حول ولا قوة.
These children spend their days and nights in these makeshift shelters. Many of them are as old as the conflict in Syria itself, and thus living in a refugee camp is the only kind of life they have ever known.
Now, this is the real situation in these makeshift shelters. Not enough basic necessities for them to last throughout the winter months, much less through the whole year.
The thin walls of these shelters, made from canvas or plastic sheets, can barely hold back the stifling heat during summer, and during winter days such as this day, they can become unbearably cold. But for now, this is home. Azara Tagaya and Aji Saregar, Arsal, Lebanon. Now, President Vladimir Putin announced on Saturday that Russia has suspended the Cold War-era Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty INF with the United States, following a similar move by President Donald Trump, who pulled the plug on the treaty a day earlier. Speaking in a televised meeting with his foreign and defense ministers, Putin also instructed the military to work on developing new land-based weapons, but emphasized that it would not deploy its weapons in Europe and other regions unless the US does so. Putin also told ministers not to initiate disarmament talks with Washington, accusing the US of being slow to respond to such moves. On Friday, Trump's administration has accused Moscow of violating the deal by developing a cruise missile known as 9M729, which has a reported range of 400 to 5,000 kilometers. The Kremlin denied the allegation, claiming that Washington itself has violated the treaty by deploying missile interceptors in Romania. Still to come, Qatar prepares for Maroons' homecoming after Asian Cup win. Don't go away. Sports now, on to football. Qatar celebrated its biggest football achievement after stunning Japan 3-1 to win the Asian Cup on Friday with impromptu street parades, marking the country's long-sought status in a sport that sits at the centre of its economic development. Doha's streets were gridlocked with cars immediately after the tournament's final whistle. Qataris draped in the country's maroon and white flag slung themselves out of car windows or hopped onto rooftops, horns blaring in celebration. The tiny but wealthy Gulf state has spent billions of dollars to scale up its infrastructure in time to host the 2022 World Cup, the centerpiece of a plan to project itself onto the world stage and diversify its energy-based economy. The Asian Cup title marks the most significant achievement it has made yet in the sport, which it has invested heavily in to be seen as a serious global player. Well, that sport item wraps up Nightline this time around. Before we leave, take a look at this high-speed chase in Huntington Park, California, which ended in a dramatic crash before the suspect was finally arrested. With that, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thanks for your company and see you next time.